Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the Beta FPV Pavo Pro 22. Easy for me to say. The main difference in this particular one is it's the 4S edition. With that, they have a slight frame change to clean things up just a touch. But one thing that I noticed when I put mine together, because I did have to add the 04, was if you remember this board on the back kind of just sat loosely back there and kind of felt like it wasn't really doing its job to allow the soft mounting of the camera and VTX to do its work. Well, they've taken care of that. So hopefully we get much better footage. It weighs 118.23 grams on my scale, which should be very comparable in dry weight to the previous iteration, the 3S version. I tested it with these batteries and I will have the flight times printed on screen when we get to that flight style. This one is very, very old. I've got a lot of these and I've been using them for many years, and the flight time I don't think is accurate, but I'm going to show it to you anyways. With the 850, it weighs 180 grams. With the 720, it weighs 175.73 grams. With the 680 Lava 2, it weighs 162.5 grams. And with that old tired 650 from G&B, it weighs 169.5.6 grams. I'm getting about 92.5 millimeters motor post to motor post. The motors are 1104, 5500 kV, and the props are the GemFan D2.2, and they are tri-bladed props. The flight controller, which you can see the connector for it right down there, it's kind of buried down in there, and we do have motor connectors as well. That is the Cube G4. It's the 2 to 4S compatible, and it's a 30 amp ESC on that all-in-one. It does have an integrated Express LRS receiver, as we oftentimes find, and we have that soft mounting I mentioned, the LED control board, and of course it comes with a multicolor LED that glows and flashes in flight. And it does come with another mount that you can use for the 04 or 04 wide, as we've got the old Meteor 75 here, and you can see camera should fit right in there. It does come with an accessory bag for repairs, extra screws, grommets, things of that nature. So the bag has an extra set of props, and it has our USB adapter for USB-C connection to our computer and Betaflight configuration. Got two little leftover foam pads, screwdriver, and Allen key. And nope, I didn't get any stickers. We're going to start off with my preferred flight style, which is, I guess you call, racing freestyle. I've been doing this 10 years, and I don't know what to call it. Call it whatever you want. This is just how I like to fly. Not that everyone wants to fly the same way all the time, but this is what I'm flying. One thing I can tell you that I noticed is, and it kind of should make sense, it's only a 2-inch prop. So as I got up to the heavier batteries, the 720, I preferred the 780 a little bit just because of the performance. But when you're trying to do, especially like the figure eights around the two areas in the outdoor living space out there, that you could feel the battery weight kind of dragging you through stuff. But unfortunately, your flight time comes way down when you start to move on to smaller and smaller batteries. So I think the 680 is probably about as small as most people want to go, unless you're, outside of the bell curve sort of area. Also, you just saw it there on that little punch out. I did notice, and this happens also with some of these that are prop protected, that if you try to nose over too quickly before you come down off the throttle, apparently there is enough prop rotation that when you try to nose over, it kind of makes it wobble a little bit. Now, of course, I just hit the deck. That happened a lot. I would say that if you want to freestyle, you should probably, kind of gauge your judgment on what you're going to do with your freestyle. This is running an 04 Pro. I think it would be better off if you had the new 04 wide in it. That's going to shave off some grams. You don't have all that metal casing and stuff. So shaving some weight off of this, if you're wanting to freestyle, would have been wise. I'm doing my best to show you the 04 Pro in this, and I'm flying it with the 720 in this particular flight. But do know that I think if you truly want to freestyle like this, in some manner like this, that you probably want to go to a smaller battery. And that will also help with your durability. Inertia can be a problem when it comes to keeping our quads in good shape. There is very little wind. I almost forgot to mention that at the beginning of the flight. Very little wind. We've got official winds are 4 to 8 miles an hour, and it was 87 degrees. Pretty nice little evening. Of course, we had that one section where I was flying directly towards the sun. Sun's relatively low, but we've got a lot of sun out. And so I had to kind of weave in and out of that sun so I could keep track, even though I fly this area thousands of times. When the sun's right in your eye, you go back and watch it if you're interested. But I thought it was kind of funny. It's why I kind of picked out this flight, was I kind of was weaving back and forth to try to keep the sun out of the lens of the camera, or give myself just a few seconds of view before the sun kind of flared the lens up again, because it's real low. It's directly into the lens. But for the most part, I didn't think outside of the nosing over on the dives, I found the technique for my particular flight styles and moves, it really required too much of an adjustment. Of course, when it comes to smaller props and weight, you're going to be on the throttle a little bit more in order to generate the thrust that you need to be able to hold your line. Heavier batteries, you're going to kind of feel like you're being pulled away, almost like you have a rope that's attached to something exterior to the quad that's going to pull you through, not around, but through or away from your tighter turns. All things that you have to kind of adjust for when you're flying different quads. I think the main point of this, and we will get to it, is going to be kind of more of a filming sort of quad that is capable of carrying the 04 Pro versus a traditional freestyle. But I do think if you're a general flyer, I would encourage you highly to go with the 04 and the 04 wide now, as we've been seeing it. They have adjusted the canopy for that as well, as I showed in the quick specs. But if you're someone who's looking to film and the 04 Pro has got the film quality that you need, I just said it in a video the other day, I've never done this stuff, so you kind of have to judge this stuff for yourself. This would be suitable for those spaces that are pretty tight, but it is going to be susceptible. And you can see there we got 4 minutes of pretty good going around flight, and our battery's real close to 3.5 volts per cell. This is a more prototypical of what this quad is designed around. More exploratory or cruising or filming sort of flight. You can see we've got some water on the pool cover. It seems like we have over the last month gone from hot to unseasonably cool, almost 70s sometimes, and then we get rains a lot frequently. We'll have 3 days of rains. Like just today I was out flying and we had a couple of pop-up showers, 2 different showers that happened between my flights outside. It was kind of interesting. Not heavy or anything, just kind of rained for 15-20 minutes, and then it just kind of stopped and went away, and then came back a couple hours later. But this flight, I'll put the flight times on screen, but I'll read them to anybody who might be listening. On an 850, I got between 8 minutes and 30 seconds and 8 minutes and 35 seconds. On the 720, I got between 7 minutes and 15 seconds and 7 minutes and 20 seconds, almost direct milliamp hour for a time flight. On the 680s, the Lava 680s from Beta FPV, I got 8 minutes to 8:05, so that's very, very good comparative to my 850. Granted, my 850's got a lot more cycles on it than that Lava 680, because that was sent with the quad for review. And then my tired old flower print G&B 650s, I only got 5 minutes and 40 seconds or 5:45 out of those. I suspect those batteries have just had so many cycles on them. They're getting a little bit, just from a math standpoint, that didn't seem to hold water, especially compared to the fresh Beta FPV Lava 650s. They did change the bottom of the frame. It used to be they had, well, if you go back several iterations on the Pavo, it used to have a battery cage where your battery needed to fit in there, or you had to clip the cage off and then use a battery strap. Can't remember if they included a battery strap back then. And then they went to where it wasn't a complete cage, but it just had like vertical pieces on the sides, which still limited your battery size. And now they have gone away from all that. It's just a flat piece on the bottom, and we'll show that when we get back to the desk. But I think that's a wise move, locking in batteries. When we get to traditional whoops, we kind of need to have that because we can't afford the weight of a battery strap with a 65 or 75 millimeter whoop. We kind of need to have that, a half-gram battery holder versus, some other solution. But when it gets to larger quads running 2, 3, and 4S, I think just using a battery strap really opens up the envelope to all of us who fly quads and flying our own batteries, and not having to worry about different battery sizes fitting an encased holder for the battery on itself. Some might see it as cleaner when you have the holder and the right size battery. It does sit flat, which can be a nice thing depending upon what you like. But in my opinion, I think just having the flexibility of using a bunch of different batteries is a bigger bonus than having a holder that sits the quad flat on whatever your takeoff surface is. I didn't mention it yet, but the winds are 8 to 12 miles an hour in this particular case, but it certainly didn't feel like it was getting up to 12 miles an hour during my flight session. So even though I look up the time and date weather information and try to get the official information, in my notes, when I looked that stuff up, I wrote down it didn't feel like it got to 12 miles an hour. Of course, I'm sitting on the ground, so maybe, up here above the trees, but you can't hardly see the trees moving. Maybe it got up to 12 miles an hour, but I'm going to throw that out there that probably not. But this flight goes on well over for 7 minutes. We've shown the DVR view, which I always start out with, has all the Betaflight OSD elements. You can see the link quality information from the Express Alert receiver. You can see the throttle position, so you get an idea of how much throttle you need to fly it around in not only freestyle, but also in a more cinematic or exploratory sort of flying, and all the other statistical information that I tend to put on the screen for the videos here on the channel. But let's head back to the desk. We'll take a look at the construction and final thoughts. One thing I haven't really highlighted is this secondary accessory for the canopy of the 04, and how, it's going to sit substantially lower. Substantial in micros, it might only be 5 millimeter, but it's going to sit the camera further down, but it's still going to be out front. So if I can line things up here, we still should not see any of the prop protection in our view from the camera, even though it's going to be down a touch lower and potentially a little bit further back. But that new camera does have 159 degrees, and this would be the route I would recommend for most people, unless you just need the potential quality that comes out of the 04 Pro, or you just have an 04 Pro you want to use with it. I mean, that's completely up to you. I did end up gluing the two ends of the LED that came around. This is something that you have to apply after you get it. So I put a little bit of my favorite welder glue that I still have on here just to keep it down, because I noticed that between flight sessions, these were starting to peel up a little bit. And, if I got hung up in a tree or something like that, I didn't want these getting caught and then ripping something down below with the wiring or off of this main board back here. It does come with these shorter antennas, and it does come with also this little holsters that kind of just slide into this top piece. So that's kind of a neat solution, and it keeps them flexible. So if you do have crashes, it shouldn't tear these things. This whole holder might come out of the slots, but they shouldn't tear your antennas directly off, hopefully. So if you get those things applied in there, I've had good luck with it in my crashes and not having any problems. That's not necessarily new. I believe they have that on the 3S edition as well, but it's something that drew my eye the first time, and I've kind of stayed attuned to that. One thing that I like about what they've done with their canopy, and it's the same on the previous iteration, is when you put the screws in, they bottom out in the canopy mount, so you don't have to worry about finding that perfect spot for the soft mounting and tightening and loosening the screw and then taking it out for flights. It bottoms out, and that's where it's supposed to be. So when it comes to putting this canopy on, that's one thing that I appreciate, because when you repair these things, especially, or either first time assembly, if you over tighten them, you're not getting the soft mounting or the vibration dampening that you need, so you end up with vibrations in your video. Or if it's too loose, then it's maybe susceptible to being torn off if you have a violent crash. I don't think this one is going to be the same way, though. It's going to be mounting just slightly different. It's not going to bottom out, so you might have to do some finessing when it comes to running the 04 wide in the mount, because it's just not as hardy or big and thick of a mount, but it's going to save you lots of weight. I believe if you go back a few iterations, this specific part of the frame was not there. The frame didn't swoop up to the carbon fiber. Now that I think about it, the carbon fiber, I did not measure that, but let's check it. I believe it's the same on both iterations. It looks like it's at least 2 millimeter thick carbon fiber, and I believe that is what we had on the 3S edition as well. They do have a notch back here for your wires, so you can get your wires down through that notch, and that's kind of where I started when I was laying this out, was get my wires in that notch and then start laying out the LED around the exterior. You can see I've got lots of grass stains on mine from all the dirt naps it was taking, or grass naps, however you want to put it. Geez, look at the back of that camera if you can see that down there. All sorts of grass stains from turtling out that grass as well. That's one nice thing when it comes to having a 4S. If you get down into the grass, you've got the battery below there, but you got good, nice, thick grass that might be 4 or 5 inches high. These do have the power of just shredding that grass, so you can take off and get out of those bad spots, so you don't have to go do the walk of shame. Or if you were to happen to crash in a tougher area, you should have plenty of power to be able to turtle and get out of those spots, unless you've got a prop that is hung up in a fence or something, metal and strong. That's one benefit over, say, the one I just did with the Meteor 75 Pro 1S. it's not going to be able to turtle out of as many situations, specifically where you might get grass or whatnot up through it. So bigger, heavier quads do have that advantage as well. You are probably going to need a tool. I used a tool, if I can get some light on it, to get the adapter, the dongle, the USB-C dongle, if you need to do beta flight configuration, which you will at least the first time around. You probably will need to use a tool. I can't get my fingers down in there. Maybe if you take this prop off, it's manageable. I used one of my curved tweezers in order to get that plugged in so I could do my initial configuration on the quad. But just know that unless you have, smaller fingers than me, that getting that in there, maybe there's someone else in your household that can do that for you. Getting that connected is going to be at least tedious unless you use a tool. I thought with the tool it worked pretty easily. I could just kind of go in from an angle and kind of push it in. I didn't have that. So that's one minor little detail you like to call out. Lots of camera angle you can get. You can see I didn't get even anywhere near the maximum camera angle, and I was flying. Hopefully you can see that. Kind of. Kind of flying. I think it's about 30 degrees, maybe a little over 30 degrees. I just eyeball it whenever I change the camera angle. Of course, when I was flying slower, I had the camera angle, closer to maybe 10 or 15. Lots of camera angle available. They do have a GPS version of this available if you like to have GPS. So that's something else you might want to check out on their website or wherever this is being sold. Which takes us to the final point. The price point that I see here without the 04 Pro is $105. So not bad considering, all you have to do is add your own 04 Pro, or if you have an 04 Wide that you ordered from someone, you could put that in there too, because you do get both canopies with it. But if you go for the 04 Pro version, already installed from Beta FPV, which can be one of the best ways to get no 04 Pros anymore, but $365. So it's essentially $260 just to get the 04 Pro inside. Maybe the 04 Wide would be the solution. Just buy one of them separately from some company. Maybe Beta FPV also sells it. They obviously have the Meteor 75 Pro II that uses it. Maybe you will find, because it's not live as I'm recording this, but maybe we'll find that they have another version, a little option box that we can tap on in order to select the version with the 04 Wide, which would be the version that I would probably go for. If you do have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about the Beta FPV Pavo20 Pro. This is the 4S edition. Please let me know down in the comment section below. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.